Good evening. Welcome to our September 16th school board meeting. I call this meeting to order. We offer Spanish interpretation services from Jorge with language connection. If you need translation assistance in person, please check with Jorge for a device. Jorge, please translate this information.
Si alguien necesita de ayuda en un intérprete, estoy aquí para hacerlo. Tenemos el sistema y estoy disponible. Gracias.
Thank you. If you wish to make a public comment, there are two options available for you. The first option is for commenting on the agenda items only, and the second option, which comes towards the end of the meeting, is for all other topics. In order to speak tonight, you will need to sign two forms, the sign-in form and the guidelines form, and you can find that in the back of the room. We provide live streaming for the meeting. The link can be found on our webpage under Board of Directors or by going directly to ysd7.org/board meetings. If you're interested in watching past meetings, you can find them on our web page's YSD YouTube channel. Barb, take the roll, please.
Director Walker,
Here.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Here.
Director Rice,
Here.
Vice President Villanueva,
Here.
and President Beckett is excused.
Next, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. September's character word is respectful, valuing or showing consideration for the feelings, rights, and traditions of others. Respetuoso, valorando y mostrando consideración por los sentimientos, derechos y tradiciones de los demás. And then we have our Yakima land acknowledgement.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
Hoy las escuelas del Distrito Escolar de Yakima descansan en las tierras ancestrales de las 14 tribus y bandas confederadas de la nación Yakima.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
La gente de la nación Yakima habitó más de 10 billones de acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties.
En los condados de Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Franklin, Kittitas, Klickitat, y Yakima.
Today we honor those native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture.
Hoy honramos a estos pueblos originales que están vinculados en la tierra a través de historias, leyendas y culturas.
We acknowledge the descendants who live in the world today.
Reconocemos a sus descendientes que viven en el mundo de hoy.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Agradezcamos a los guardianes de la tierra, quienes han vivido aquí y continúan viviendo aquí, desde tiempos inmemoriales.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Un reconocimiento es una manera simple y poderosa de mostrar respeto.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase indigenous peoples' history and culture.
Y un paso hacia la corrección de las historias y prácticas que borran la historia y la cultura de los pueblos indígenas.
It also honors the truth.
También honra la verdad.
As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Como distrito escolar, continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones con la nación Yakima.
Next item of the agenda is reports to the board, and first is the ends report goal number 2, and Executive Director of Student Services Omar Santoy presenting. Superintendent Green, do you want to kick this off?
I'm just grateful for the work of our Student Services Department, especially in this matter, Omar Santoy for carrying the heavy load here with his his team, because it wasn't a single effort, but for keeping us updated on goal number 2. And as you may recall, there was a presentation earlier, 2025. We will likely still not have some of the OSPI information that differs from that report. But this report at this time of the year was to get us onto a cadence of hearing the 5 ends reports between September and December. So this is a new approach of not spreading it out through the entire year, but then condensing it for that January opportunity. So without further ado, Omar.
Thank you, Board. My name is Omar Santoy, Executive Director of Student Services. Today we'll be giving the Board an ends report on goal number 2. And you've received the full slide deck in advance for review. And today I'll be sharing a few slides with you with some updated information. So let's get started. There we go. All right, so let's get started. As you know, the strategic plan outlines 5 aspirational goals for our students. These goals are our community commitments. They drive our systems, they drive our services each and every day. The reference to these goals is found in our global end statement, and that is part of our policy 1000.1.0. Today, we will be specifically focusing on goal number 2. So looking at goal number 2, our focus is all students empowered, connected, supported, resilient, and engaged. When broken down, we call out that all students will develop habits and behaviors that elevate student voice, resilience, and personal ownership in a safe, caring, and supportive environment. So if this is our aim, we need to ensure that we understand what it is actually calling for. So when we say all students, all means all. It truly means every student with no exceptions. And when we call out the development of habits and behaviors of student voice, resilience, and personal ownership, all of these fall within the social, emotional, and behavioral domains. And we really consider regular attendance as an example of a student taking personal ownership toward this goal. Lastly, the goal emphasizes on creating a safe, caring, and supportive environment where every student feels connected to at least one trusted adult and to one another. And you can see in this picture that we selected, this is actually what we're striving for, right? Students actively learning while building meaningful connections with the adults and with one another. Historically, so when we speak of indicators of student progress, Superintendent Green, talked about some data that has not yet been made available. But historically, you've been provided with indicators of student progress. Things like survey data, attendance data has been given to the board to help monitor this goal. Just given the timing of this presentation and it being so early in the school year, some of the data that has been made available in the past, it just has not been yet released, or we were unable to collect it. And I'll expand on that here in just a moment. But here's a list of the data that you have received in the past. Healthy Youth Survey. The Healthy Youth Survey is administered on a 2-year rotation. So every 2 years, we administer the Healthy Youth Survey. And this is our year of administration. So there's no new data to report on last year. We will be administering in October, and those results won't be made available to our district till the winter of 2026. You've also seen CEE data. That is the Center for Educational Effectiveness. That is also a survey that is administered. There's no new data to present to the board that you haven't already seen. YSD last year did not contract with CEE. The board, I know you guys are aware of this, did not contract with CEE last year, and that was due to financial constraints. We did, however, attempt to launch a survey, and that survey that students did take, it just did not capture the data that pertained to goal number 2. And so that data is unavailable, even though We don't have that survey data available. We do have the historic data, and that has been provided to the board on slides 21 through 32. You guys have also, you would identify this icon, the OSPI regular attendance data. We've had a lot of discussion around that. That is OSPI measuring their goal, their way. In years past, I've been able to bring to the board preliminary data. And so when we think about the last attendance update, that was provided to us in December, and I believe I reported it in January. Being so early in the year, we have not even been received any preliminary data for the end of last school year. The data that we do have that is consistent and you know that you've heard me say that is most valuable to our district is the data that we have control over, which is our Skyward data, our Yakima School District daily average attendance data. And you know, the most powerful thing that I keep saying about this data is it does measure every kid, every period, and so every opportunity to learn gets captured. And it's very valuable to us because we can access that data very quickly. So let's look at some data together. Here's a graph on our attendance data. That blue line that you see is OSPI's regular attendance data. And you can see that the last update that we have is in 2023-24 school year. At the last attendance update, I was able to give you an estimate, and that was the preliminary data. The preliminary data indicated that we would be landing around 66%. That number did finalize at 65.9. And when you compare it to the 2022-23 school year, you can see that we had an increase or an improvement of 2.4%. So that's movement in the right direction. We've been seeing that. We're very proud of that. And we're hoping when we get the preliminary data in December for end of school year last year, we're hoping for another increase. The orange line indicated on this graph is our daily average attendance data, and that is our YSD data. We've been able to maintain 88% over the past 3 years, and that's up from the 85 from the year 21-22. And so the last 3 years, we've been able to maintain 88% of the daily average attendance data. I'm particularly proud of last year and holding at that 88%. And you know, there's a specific reason why. February 3rd. February 3rd, I had great concern as we monitor this data. Our district daily average attendance plummeted to 55.2% on that particular day. I became very concerned about where that might put us when we measured toward the end of the year. If you remember February 3rd, you know, it's months ago now, there was significant impact, not just to our data, but we had high number of students participating, and we had some staff, you know, participating in a day without an immigrant. And so you guys may have also been able to remember there was businesses that closed, and there was a lot of unrest, you know, around whether it was safe to, you know, send kids to school and whatnot. And we were hearing these things. And so that day we saw, you know, close to half of our population not in schools. And that I wanted to think, you know, when I was looking at that, I thought, man, this is going to be very difficult to recover from, you know. And I look back at the year prior because I thought, well, maybe because it was a Monday. I thought, well, maybe historically just Mondays we see attendance that is down. So I looked at the year prior, and the same calendar Monday, I mean, the February 3rd wouldn't translate over, right? But so that same Monday, the year prior, our district was at 88.4%. So you can see the single day impact of over 30% for that attendance data. is very significant. And so, our schools had to do a wonderful job just, creating, safe and inviting areas, schools that students felt comfortable, coming to, that our families felt comfortable sending kids to for the remainder of the school year. So for us to end at that 88% is a huge feat, and I'm very proud of that. So we did end the year at 88%. And just to give you a quick view of where we're starting this school year, we're actually starting very strong. We're at 93% daily average attendance rate for the 25-26 school year. So that's our first reporting period. That is slightly up than where we were last school year. And so we're hoping that this is going to be an encouraging early trend that we will continue to see throughout the school year. Specific to our goal statement, at least 95% of our students, 19 out of 20, will attend at least 171 days of the 180-day school year. Our current district performance, and you can see here that we've maintained at 7 the last 3 years. When student services started overseeing attendance was, in that 22-23 school year transition. So there's 4 years, of data. And so we jumped in that first year from 5 to 7, and then we've maintained that 7. And I just got to share with you, I've learned some things about this goal. This is a very lofty goal for our kids at that 95%, and it is an aspirational goal. It's very difficult to reach. I've got three of my own kids in our system, and so just a couple illnesses throughout the school year, can put this 95% in jeopardy. But in our district, not only when a student may be ill, it may impact that student's attendance, but there may be an older sibling that also stays home to care for a younger sibling, and so parents can continue to work. And so in our district, you may have students that are out and older siblings. So really the impact of that illness is on maybe multiple students in our district. Not only that, when you start peeling the onion, medical and mental health appointments, our practitioners have done a wonderful job trying to create options outside of school hours, but most of our appointments that students can attend are during the school day. And so they have the same school hours or they have same business hours as our school hours. And so it can make it very difficult, especially for any students that have regular appointments. So needing to be checked out for those. I guess what I'm trying to say, it can be very easy to fall out of that 95%. It is a very, very tall, very high standard that we have set for students to meet. And we do have students meeting that. But where I think I want to say I'm very pleased with our district is we've been able to, if you look at this is the ones, the students who are approaching that criteria. The 7 out of 20 were the ones that are meeting the criteria of that very high standard. The ones that are approaching are over 90%. And so over the course of the past 4 years, we've been able to grow this population of students from 9 out of every 20 students that have at least 90%. We've been able to grow that to 13, and we've maintained that the last couple years. So we're growing this population of students that are getting close to that very high standard that we have set. So that's exciting. In regard to determining progress toward the goal, our district has really been able to maintain the growth that we have been making. I think that's notable. We've been able to maintain, so we're not seeing any backslide here. And we're continuing to grow the numbers, like I said, of the students that are approaching our very high standard. And with that, I am determining that we are continuing to make progress in this goal. And one thing that I just feel it's so important that I share with the board is there's something special that you will not find in our data. And it is the excitement, the culture that is growing, the innovation that is happening. And so I want to share more qualitative data with you. And this is a picture of a bracket. And so Student Services does a wonderful job hosting a PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. And it's a PLT, right? Like an acronym on an acronym, which is the professional learning team. And what we have is leaders from schools all across our district that come together and they discuss and share, right? And they collaborate. They discuss things like attendance and discipline, and they share ideas. They discuss concerns that they have, that they're, and it is a place of growth. Well, this one particular meeting, the principal at McKinley Elementary, Amanda Voorhees, and there was this profound moment that kind of took place. She shared this innovation that had started at McKinley, and it was the March Madness attendance tournament. And so most of us are familiar with March Madness from basketball and the brackets that come out. And they had created this atmosphere of competitiveness. And so classrooms are competing against one another, and they're using data, our district data, the daily average attendance data, to compete. And every time that, each week, every time that one class outperforms another, they advance in the bracket and they advance in the tournament, all in hopes to make it to the finals and win that nifty trophy up on the corner there. And what we have seen is the impact has been such excitement and engagement around attendance at this particular school. And so many of our other schools heard that, and they have stole it, and they're starting their own types of tournaments. It also increased school-wide focus on attendance and created a lot of energy moving in the right direction. There's no way that I could show you how excited these kids get when they win, so I had to show you. Please watch this video with me.
Mavericks, hey, it's the end of the week, and I want to show you how our attendance went this week. You guys did a fantastic job. Let's take a look at our March Madness bracket and see who's moving on to the round next week. So Vidrio had 97.8% for attendance rate, and Reyes just barely beat her with 98.1%. So congratulations, Reyes will be moving on. Laura's classroom had 90.4%, and Rademacher's class had 93.7%. So Mrs. Rademacher's class will be moving on.
¡Nosotros ganamos! ¡Amores!
You know, what I want to share is just, this means something to our kids, right? To be able to set a focus, all work together, work toward a goal, celebrate that goal together. That's the environments that this goal is really trying to capture. And there's power in competition, putting our kids in a position to compete and to celebrate their competition is wonderful. The last thing I want to share with the board, if I can go back to the slides. Okay. The last thing I wanted to share with the board is we are looking forward to the strategic plan refresh. Student Services, myself, gets to lead in this space for the refresh. And there's a couple things I want to call out. First is we are so thankful for the foundation that our current plan has set. The transition from the roadmap to the compass was so good for our district, and so we're really thankful for the direction that we get to continue in. Also, we are excited to hear from our community, to have students give input on the next iteration of our strategic plan is very powerful. And I think we're most excited about the looking forward into finding if there's still some fine tuning that needs to happen, right? Where do we still have some misalignment where we can bring some alignment and kind of do that really fine tuning, and that would care for our district and set a course for the next 6 years. So we're just really excited about that. And with that, I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with you. And I would love to hear any comments or if there's any questions.
Any questions from members of the board?
Not necessarily any questions, because this is relatively recently that we've seen this data before. But I just want to thank you, Omar, for taking this on and making sure that the board has consistent data to review, and looking forward to the refresh. Looking forward to how the refresh affects this particular goal. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Thank you so much, Omar, for your presentation. Superintendent Green?
I just want to make sure, Omar, while you have a chance, do you want to recognize members of your team that has helped with this process?
Yes, absolutely. So this goal is heavily monitored, and we have a wonderful team of Aaron Thomas, who leads our student services team. The assistant director in that department is Sean Orminsky, and they are heavily monitoring attendance, and we're so thankful for leadership, and they're just a wonderful team. So thank you, and thank you to the board for listening tonight.
The next item on the agenda is the Summer 2025 Program Highlights with Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Hector Mendez, presenting.
Can you hear me? There we go. Thank you for this opportunity. To start it off, would you mind playing the video, Barb? No, I'm just joking. There is no video. Omar talked about competition, and I thought that's a good one. It's hard to follow up on a great presentation that way. So I'm sorry, Barb, if I startled you.
You just scared Barb to death.
My name is Hector Mendez, Executive Director. Welcome, Vice President Villanueva, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Green, members of Cabinet. I'm very excited to share an update with our summer programs. We did have a successful program, which I'll get into right now. And so our summer programs, I'll get into the dates and times. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But I want to let you know that we ran a great summer program that started with preschool all the way through high school. And the preschool, I'll get into that in just a little bit. But I'm going to start off with the bullets at the top. 21st Century. We have a 21st Century grant, which Yakima School District coordinates with ESD. We have a grant, a partnership together. It's through the 21st Century grant that we are providing before and after school services, but also part of that is we have to provide a summer program. So we have 5 schools participate in that at MLK, and also Lewis and Clark was part of that at the middle school. The second bullet there is we held our migrant summer program like we have in years past. And this is where the preschool program comes in. Last year, we did a pilot with ESD, and it was Yakima and Wapato. And I mentioned that last year. I know it's been a long time since I mentioned it, but it was last year when I mentioned it. So this is year 2. We identified 38 students that were migratory students who were going to be starting kindergarten this year. And so we had 2 migrant advocates we helped identify the 38 students and families. And through the month of July, they met with each student and family once a week for the entire month of July. And so the focus is on math, reading, and social emotional, really getting prepared. So what we did is develop a kit, if you will, materials, books, supplies that we provided them. And then we taught the kids, the students, but in reality, we're actually teaching the parents how they can support their kids at home to prepare for the kinder. And so then with that information that we gathered, we actually, about 2 weeks ago, sent that information on to the kindergarten teachers. So now they have access to that information, and they have a better understanding of where our migratory student kids are at. So that's with 38 students. Third bullet there was a high school credit retrieval. We use our Connexus online for students, and I'll get into the data here in a little bit. We had a special education extended school year that was also held at MLK. I need to tell you that a couple of years back, we ended up condensing schools. And what I mean by that is it was pretty common practice for schools who were providing summer programs to have a summer program at each site. That became very costly. So what we did is we condensed. MLK was one of those schools where we had extended school year for special ed. special education, a migrant program, and also 21st century. Then at the middle school, we had Washington and LC, Lewis and Clark. I'll get into this in a little bit. They provided Gear Up and the 21st century program, in which Noemi presented last month on Gear Up. And so I just wanted to mention that because another school coming up is our third grade LAP, which is a fifth bullet down. Our LAP, our Learning Assistance Program, was held at Roosevelt, which is another site. And so we have third graders there that were invited based on data. Students who were not making progress, well behind. We invited them during the last conference, parent-teacher conference, invited students to attend. Then lastly, we have a K-8, Stanton, Yakima Online also provides service summer program as well as a Gear Up, like I mentioned before. The important thing about the reason we all do this is not only academic, we know that there's a gap, a learning gap that happens, but there's that emotional as well, that touch that we have as educators. Our students during the long summer break, our students that need the extra help are getting the help. And I wish more would attend, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but we do provide in Yakima that with caring adults, right? Adults that really want to see kids learn and move them forward. Lastly, I'd like to say that our program, we did provide breakfast and lunch at the sites as well as transportation. So I'd like to thank our nutrition and our transportation department for their support in making all this happen, because it is tricky. It's a lot, but we made it work. So one of the schools I'll talk about, I've only got a few slides to present, so is our 21st century, as I mentioned before, which is in coordination with ESD. So our 21st century program, we invited students from the 5 elementary schools, and I'll get into that in the next slide. And also 1 middle school, like I mentioned, Lewis and Clark. And a total of 457 students attended the summer program through the 21st century. And I hone in on that because of our migrant. Being that I'm in charge of the migrant program, our migrant students also participated with the 21st century, right? And so we had 200, we invited 223, I'll take that back. We registered 223 migrant students, and of those, 146 attended. The reality is we invited all migratory students, all migrant students at the elementary, just like we did last year. And the intent is to support those migrant students because there's a lot of movement that could be involved. And so always trying to close that gap. Our summer school at the bottom there, we ran summer school from June 23rd through July 18th. They were half days except for the migrant program. We did, because of our migrant grant, our summer grant, we pushed that all day till 3:30. It was Monday through Friday, minus July 4th, which is a Friday. And again, it's worthy to mention that breakfast and lunch were provided as well as transportation. So a little data with our 21st century and migrant. You can see the 5 schools on the top right that were invited. We had Garfield with 72 students, Hoover 73, Adams 49, McKinley 42, Ridgeview 49, and where it says other, is because we invited other migrant students from other schools, right? And that makes up the rest. And in our math, we used a math program called Math for Love. Math for Love is a unique program. It's a lot of game, but it's learning through game that were really aligned with the guaranteed standards that we have here in Yakima. I work directly with 21st Century, with the ESD program. And it's important that we all know that the guaranteed standards were aligned to all the lessons in math and literacy during the summer program. So there's a through line all the way through for our learning. So there was an increase of 22.5% in math and a 15% in literacy. It's also important to note that we also had dual and non-dual classrooms during this time. So it's important that we continued. The students that were receiving dual instruction received it during the summer as well. Here's a big one, our middle school, high school, our summer programs. Across the top, we have our schools that participated. Davis High School, Eisenhower, Stanton, Yakima Online, Open Doors. And I apologize for the acronyms, LCMS, Lewis and Clark Middle School, and then WAMS, which is Washington Middle School, and then totals. Along the left side, I wanted to note the students that did register, but more importantly, the students that attended. And there's always a discrepancy. We always invite students, and there's always reasons why. And everyone gets excited when we start registering kids for summer school in late April, early May. Things happen between then and the start of summer school, which is 2 months later. So we always register more kids, and it just happens. But so we had our registered students attended, courses completed, credits completed, and then our graduates. Before I move on to the totals, if you look at Lewis and Clark Middle School and Washington Middle School, It's important to note at the very bottom, the number of students that were able to complete Washington State history at the middle school, and it saves those kids some time from taking it at the high school. So we gave them a little early start, if you will, and that's always exciting to see, Washington State history. So we've got a little head start and they get a credit for that. But if you look all the way across our totals, in a middle school, high school, the students that registered were a little over 1,500 students. Those that attended, a little over 900. Courses completed, 1,761. And in credits completed was 1,245 and a half. I want to thank our vice principals at both comprehensive high schools and Natalie over at Stanton and many, many others who really honed in on when kids finished a credit in Connexus, they had a quick time that they'd receive an email letting them know that they finished a course and would jump them into the next course. And so it took a lot of time for Ruby Admijo over at Ike and Jill Seca over at Davis to keep on top of this. It's a task and they did a great job. And so what's more important is that bottom row. We were able to graduate because of our summer program an additional 17 students because of all the credits and courses. And that always brings me cheers. Even saying that again, because that's a good number, 17 students. Had we not had it, that's the 17 less students Yakima would have. So lastly, I like to show pictures and I left it with, oh, there they are. Summer school photos. And so the first picture here on the far left is our 4th grade, is during the STEAM project over at MLK, and they're working with circuits. It's hard to read. I wish I can blow that up, but it's really, they're making flashlights. Nothing better. It's super enjoyable to watch kids build something, especially in grade 4. The middle picture is Cowiche Blueberry Farm. We did a lot of STEM projects in summer school that related to plants and growth. And so it's always fun to watch kids not only learn it in the classroom, but now look how it actually applies in real life, right? So we take them to the Cowiche Blueberry Farm. And so we send our students there, our migratory students, and they learn for about 30 minutes what it takes to protect what is needed for plants, obviously the sun, the nutrients and growth and so forth, but also protection. It's hard to see there, but there's a net. And I was told that the kids actually got to see the net to use, birds trying to get in. And so we learned about that in STEAM. The last picture is STEAM, the top spinners, and more about the energy and motion and what energy motion does, especially with spinners. And so it's all fun activities. That is a quick update on our summer school program. I can tell you that it was a successful program all the way through, from preschool all the way through the high school. Lastly, I'll end with any questions.
Any questions or comments from members of the board?
Thank you, Hector. I always look forward to the summer school report because a lot of times this is a place where those kids who are a little bit behind can catch up. The numbers of attendees were better than what we've seen in past years. Did your staff have an opportunity to kind of debrief and look at ways to improve that attendance?
Oh, to improve attendance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did debrief, but not to the point where I think where you're talking about. We did debrief. That still needs to happen with the summer school. As I said at the onset, it'd be nice to have more students participate in summer school, right? And we get them early. They register. We get people to register. Things happen within those 2 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
Life happens. I understand that. But if there are touch points or suggestions for improving that attendance or reaching out and bringing those kids in who maybe thought they found something else to do during summer school. I understand that for some of these kids, there are places that they need to be for their families' purposes rather than summer school. But it seems to me that maybe to have some plans in place for reaching out to them might be helpful.
Yeah. And please know when summer school starts, we do make phone calls to all those that registered, trying to get them in. And so we were successful in some areas, but not enough to close the gap. But thank you for that. Yeah, well, point taken.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is updates. Are there any updates from members of the board?
Yes, I have an update for General Assembly, which is coming up this Saturday. It's a virtual assembly this year. Over the weekend, you received the voting guide tool that will let me know your input on how you would suggest voting for all of the elements in the General Assembly. So I will need that information back by Thursday so that I can get those things in order and have that ready for first thing, bright and early Saturday morning. If you have any questions about that, give me a call. It's very helpful to have that kind of information before I go in to the assembly. And it is loaded, the tool, in addition to the tool that I sent you over the weekend, it's also loaded here in Board Docs. So you can access it that way. I think it's probably a read-only file in Board Docs. No? Okay. You have the read-write file that I sent you, so either one, just let me know.
Any other updates from members of the board? Next on the agenda is superintendent's updates. Superintendent Green.
Thank you, and I'll move rather quickly. First of all, I'd just like to acknowledge our leadership changes. We do have an upcoming meeting at Davis, a board meeting at Davis, and at that meeting, we will be introducing the building level changes that have happened in the administrative realm. But for right now, we'd like to share with you tonight the changes that have happened here in central office. So we certainly know about two of them that are at the table, the never going or never ending tour of Dr. Larson, Dr. Chris Larson, and Dr. Maria Lucero. I will say that they are not replacing people. We never really replaced people, had so much experience that was here, but they are coming in and making the position their own. A big shout out to Stacy Locke that I'm sure is watching right now at home, right? Yeah, I'm sure. And then we would like to acknowledge and just have if they would come up and introduce themselves. So I'd like to have Christy come up, Rose come up, and let me see. Oh, yes, Terry Davison, please. Could I have the three of you come up, please? And then just name and position. And stay standing until you're grilled.
There we go. I'm Christy Kirk, and I am accountant and procurement program manager.
Hi, I'm Teresa Davison, Terry Davison. I am a new executive director, and I am lucky enough to also have participated in the hiring process for our new, who might also have the longest title here, Tribal Sovereignty and Native Student Achievement TOSA. And I'll let Rose introduce herself.
Shifklawit Inknash Waniksha Tamshashu. My English name is Rose George Whitefoot. I'm a citizen of Yakima Nation. My title, I wrote it down. So I'm the Tribal Sovereignty Native Student Achievement TOSA. So I just want to welcome you all to the homelands of Yakima Nation and just thank you all for the work that you do. As a first generation high school and college grad, your efforts are definitely appreciated. Thank you.
Wonderful. Could we please have you remain there? Do we have Kirsten, would you like to please take a photo of our new central services personnel? So please, Chris and Maria, would you join the team over there? And then I'll say a few more words. While they're getting the photo ready, I might just say that now. I think the first order of business, Rose, might be to retitle your position. I don't know how that happened, but we'll take a definite look at that. That's quite a mouthful. While they're getting ready, I would just mention that Christy Kirk, Accounting and Procurement Program Manager, in that role previously, we did see Carl Easter and Monette Dennis. So it's a combination and has been expanded. And then with Rose Whitefoot, we had Mariah Lowles in that position prior, but we have elevated the position because of the opportunity to expand the impact of working with our Native students. And that is all done through the Native funding that comes through the federal government. So we're very excited to have Rose with us as well. All right. Look at that. Powerhouse. Thank you. Could we get a hand for the group there? Thank you. The next item that I'd like to share with you is accessible in your document in the superintendent update, and it is the mobile market summary. And this is with our partnership, gives you kind of some details about our partnership with Northwest Harvest. They send out an impact form about events that they host. And in this one, you can see that the impact of the volunteer work that has happened with Northwest Harvest resulted in 350 families receiving groceries, the meals that were provided, the people that it took, and the hours as well. So we certainly want to acknowledge the wonderful opportunity and partnership that we have with Northwest Harvest. And anytime we can give back to one of our partners, it does become a true partnership. And that's what we're really trying to build, is to make sure that we are not always on the receiving end of the benefit, but that we can certainly give. And when we are giving, we know that that's really the one thing that benefits both the giver and the receiver. Next, I'd like to share with you some information about the Seattle Sounders. So I believe you'll be able to see some photos here in just a moment. I was notified a little over a week ago that the Ray Foundation for the Seattle Sounders had an offer for a couple of our schools. And we were able, there it is right there. And so very quickly over the course of a week, both Julio Sanchez from Hoover and Steve Brownlow from Garfield, both elementary schools, were able to mobilize and involve their parents and staff and certainly students. The Ray Foundation donated 100 tickets to each of the two schools, along with 4 charter buses to fully paid for by the Ray Foundation. We did have a bit of a snafu with one of the charter buses not showing. So a big shout out to our transportation department and Art and his work. He was able to backfill that spot, and we're very excited about the opportunity that the kids had. So I have had both reports from Steve Brownlow and Julio Sanchez, who are just elated about the impact that it's had so early in the year of them able to benefit. So certainly want to make the board aware of our Sounders trip that was pulled off successfully on Saturday. The strategic plan update was mentioned by Omar. So that kickoff took place a little over a week and a half ago. We are now set to have the different core teams meet on their own timeline. It will go from 5 goals to 4 goals. We are always looking to expand the involvement. So that work is still ongoing, especially to make sure that we have not just sufficient, but ample student involvement in that. And I know that we have at least one board member. I'm looking at Martha right now, who did take part in, I believe it was Omar's group. So the group that he's leading in conjunction with Aaron. So it's really Aaron's group, but we'll say Omar. And then also Kirsten Fitter is there as well. We all know Omar. Next, I just want to share some additional information about what's happening at the state level. The OSPI House Bill 2049 OSPI task force is kicking off tomorrow, and that was part of that House Bill 2049 with a intent to have a 2-year recommendation within 2 years on a different financial structure for the state. So I'm interested to see what will happen with the kickoff. Everybody is welcome for the first, I believe, the first session, which is tomorrow. And then beyond that, it is by invitation only. So we do have several superintendents that are participating in that. Unfortunately, I am not part of that group, or fortunately, I am not part of that group. So as you remember, we have 3 different state groups that are focused on the financial issue and trying to come up with a solution. The one group is the SUPS, Superintendents United, focusing on the financial, and that was the first to start in 2024. It has evolved to grow to more than 20 superintendents and has gained the attention and being recognized at the state level. Both Kelly Armaki and I are running that group, and we do have another session which will take place the day before our WASDA session in Seattle. So that's our next meeting. We've had 3 legislators appear at those sessions so far. The thing that we acknowledge and that we do lack with that group is we don't have the political player on that group that can really drive it. So it truly is a grassroots organization, but we are doing some good things about sharing information and growing together and working with the legislators that do come. The second group is was formed by Representative Tomiko Santos, who is the chair of the House Ed Committee. She, after meeting with us, coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, formed a group called the Big Idea Group. And that group is not just focused on the financial piece, but it's looking at all structures of education. That does have a participatory group of around 30 plus individuals that is both national and regional in the state. And in that group, I am the only superintendent in the state that's representing that group. The third is the OSPI, which has many superintendents and many other representatives from other organizations, including our labor units across the state and lobbyists. So that does kick off tomorrow. Chris Reykdal has shared that the goal is to have that completed in about 1.5 years, but there is a 2-year goal. And it is unfortunately already contingent upon state funding. So that has been called out. And we all know that that has continued to be a barrier, especially at a time where our Constitution does call for ample funding of public education as the paramount duty, and yet it keeps falling by the wayside. So at this point, I'd like to pass the baton here for a moment to Bob No to share some public request information. This was requested from our board president. So this will be, well, I'll let him go ahead and continue.
Thank you. Good evening, board. So in recent conversations with President Beckett, he and I were speaking about public records requests and how our office is processing those. And he thought it might be a good idea if we reported to the board on a periodic basis the number of requests we receive year to date, and then how many open requests there are. So we've been striving to try to keep the open request number down to single digit. We've been pretty successful with that, but sometimes we get some requests are really perfunctory. We can just resolve them very quickly, but some of them are broad and very expansive and they take time. So we thought that reporting on a regular basis, maybe once a month to the board, and as part of your documents before you, you'll see a kind of a line graph that shows the total number of requests. And then our thinking is that we show the total number of requests and the total number open with each report. I don't know if there's any other information you would like beyond that. If so, just let me know. We can modify the report to include that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I know that there are some districts, especially on the west side, that have been swamped with public records requests from time to time, to the point where one small district over on the peninsula nearly went bankrupt because of the number of requests that they had received, and nearly all of which were just onerous in the information that they wanted. in order to respond to those requests, not only did they report those to the board, they also put up a spreadsheet on their website for listed the name of the person requesting, what it is that they requested, the date, and when they closed out the request, or if they closed out the request. I'm wondering if that would be something that we might consider, is to just post those so that the public has access to that information in a written form, as well as, on camera, where they may or may not watch our just energizing board meetings.
So the state in 2017 created the Joint Legislative Audit and Accountability Office that basically has requested that any entity within the state that spends over $100,000 a year processing public records requests have to report the information to the state. So we've been doing that for the last couple of years, reporting that information. We don't track by the name of the requester, and maybe I can give it some consideration, but in the spirit of the Public Record Act, it basically wants us to not inquire into who the people are, what their intention is. It's open records, they're public records, they're open and available to anybody. If you start identifying requesters, people, maybe not, or maybe so, but people may start to inquire about the motive for the request. I'd rather avoid that if possible, because as I say, you're not supposed to really inquire into the motive for the request.
I'm not asking for the motive, but I think, isn't it public information, those who request public records?
Yes, that is public information. So as a matter of policy, if the board wanted to have us produce that information, we could, but my just general thinking about it off the cuff here, I think I'd want to honor the spirit of the law that you just process the request regardless of who the requester is.
The other thing that we could do is maybe, I know you didn't mention the district, and I'm not sure to which district you're referring, but another option would be to ascertain the name of the district and find out how that has worked out and what the impetus was and what the results were. So rather than just jumping in without knowing, do some research, and then we can come back and revisit. And I think Bob might maintain the same stance, but then we'd have some more knowledge about whether they've seen the change and how they've, why they went that route and what was the motivation and what was the result.
Okay, thanks.
Sounds good. So we can get that. We'll get that from you afterwards.
There is one additional piece of information that I think would be helpful in the public records request data, and that's the number of requests that were completed within the timelines provided. And so that may be 100% of the ones that were processed, but it's not clear that the ones we got were completed in a timely manner within whatever the law requires.
We could do that. The way the law works is when you receive a request within 5 days, you have to respond to it. So you either produce the document or documents, or you produce a reasonable time period by which you think you can complete it. So we generally will make an analysis of how long we think it will take us to complete it, and then we provide that to the requester. The nature of some of these is sometimes you do them in installments, and sometimes we have to extend those deadlines. There's no hard and fast rule on how many days an entity can take to process what's reasonable. But I could tell you whether we meet our initial estimates, our first estimate on timely response.
Well, yeah, I think in the past, the district has not always been in compliance. And so really it's just number in compliance. So regardless of how long it takes, I guess if it's not a specific number, but just in compliance completed, incompleted. Does that make sense? Because that there has been a discrepancy there in the past.
We can do that.
All right. And then the last item that I have is to call out that as stewards of our district resources, it's continually our responsibility to maintain and improve facilities so that they remain an asset for our community. And as you may recall, several years ago, when I came on board, and as I remember still Anthony speaking several times, Mr. Murrieta, about the deferred maintenance that continues to grow and continues to be an expense. And having been, I'm looking over at Chris now, where she came from the Highline School District, where there's a capital facilities division, staffed to the brim, as you have a community that is regularly passing levies and bonds every couple of years. And we have been very blessed in our community to be a levy passing community. And we've had a more challenging situation when we look at our bonds. But our schools really aren't just for the community or for the students. They are community centers. They're the heartbeat. They serve youth programs, civic programs, neighborhood events. And it's the facilities are really about the future of Yakima and what we want for our students. And I mentioned this just to call out that in 22-23, we did have a CFAC committee that analyzed the facilities and came up with an extended plan at that time of what it could look like as far as potential bond packages in the future. I will be sharing that with you, re-sharing that with you in the coming weeks to daylight the work that had happened under our previous Deputy Superintendent Rob Darling prior to Stacy in doing that work, and the people that were involved and what that looks like as far as the recommendation for modernization of schools and other components around our district. More recently in 2024 and extending into this year, we've had the FACT group, and that is the facility group that is again looking at potential long-term consolidation if there is a continued attrition. Now, I need to be clear. There is definitely no plan to consolidate, but I do think it's prudent to make sure that we have things mapped out, which was why the committee was started to take a look at that and recognizing that you had more and more districts around the state that were going that route. Through the course of the FACT team, what was also done was the validation of the CFAC work. And so they did take an intense look at what had been proposed prior, and it was again then verified or approved by that committee as far as the plan, and some more recommendations then came forward on what a potential bond could look like at some point in the future. And I think one of the things that was probably, I think it was called out in both, was just the need when we look at, and I'm just sharing one need that we have as a district, would be the modernization and ADA compliance of our playgrounds at the elementary level. So when we're looking at access or denying access, that certainly does become an issue, and we're certainly looking at ways to avoid being dictated to do something when we can certainly involve the community to do what's right. So just a reminder of that work that had happened previously around long-term bond planning and just the commitment to resurface that first CFAC group data and then report out on our FAC committee once that does conclude. Are there any questions that I can answer? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is highlights for community engagement. Kristen, are you?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Superintendent Green?
It's me. The highlights that we have, I mean, now that school has started and we've had the open houses, we're really going down now into this kind of hitting our stride and, marching forward with the regular sports activities that we do have. So believe it or not, the big event that we have right now looking forward is for our board to start their site visitations, and we're looking forward to that first site visitation at 4 p.m. October 6th at Davis High School. That'll be, again, that's going to be where we recognize our building administrators. It's also the month that we do recognize our principals and our assistant principals. As far as other events, we'll continue to update that because we do know that over the course of, I believe that I saw on the 19th we have, and just by chance when I'm looking at the the notifications that go out to staff from their principal about the weekly flyer. I'm excited to see that Adams has a family night, a movie night that's on the 19th. And I know that there are many more that I'm leaving out, but I did want to call that out because those movie night events at the elementary level are truly, and you'll see that if you were to attend one of those, do involve the entire community. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to see an area come together around a school and use that as the hub that I was talking about. But currently we're just looking at that Davis opportunity for the board, and then we'll share any other relevant dates with you at that time.
Next is comments from the public on agenda items, and we have two individuals who've signed up. First is Phyllis Bunkert-Frank talking about summer school.
I'm Phyllis Bunkert-Frank, the legal name and the name I respond to most quickly. I'm a former school board member, local and state board member, but I'm here as a citizen who has followed public policy in terms of public education, all education of students in our area. And what brought me here tonight was the agenda item on summer school. Summer school has been supplementary learning, and summer school has been an issue for many, many years. And Martha, thank you for commenting on it. We have 15,000 plus students. We have 80% low income. To see that we are providing summer school for 400 and I'm sorry, Hector, I don't have the exact number again. I had it written down, but our numbers, when you look at the number of kids that are low income, the total number of student population, and what we're actually providing, it has not changed much in the probably more than 20 years that I've been following supplementary learning. And so I'm asking the board to consider this year to look, as the budget gets developed, to look for a line item on supplementary learning. It typically has not been there, hard to find, and I can understand it when you're relying on supplementary dollars, foundations, federal dollars, potpourri of funding, but still, if there's evidence that it's going to be there, and these are the sources and what we can expect, because the numbers of students that are invited and when in the year they are invited and the number that show up, it really hasn't changed much in the last 20 years. And I have a whole file I can share about that. But please pay attention to it, board members. And the last day of summer school was July 23rd, was it? 20, no, okay, 17. There are still 5 weeks between the last day of summer school and when school started. And so I'm wondering what has happened. You didn't have a chance to see the slide on pre-test and post-test. There's definitely growth. I would want to know, if I were still a board member, I would want to know after 5 weeks after that post-test and we're back in school, if some of those children or all of those children that were present for pre and post testing are maintaining that achievement, continuing to grow. Let's get to the connection that you talked about as well in goal 2. And I'm pleased to see that there's a new strategic plan, and I'd like to find a place for a seat on one of those committees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next individual signed up for comments is Vicki Dwight to speak about presentations.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Dwight, former teacher, White E president back in the day. And I just want to say how excited I was to hear Omar and Hector's presentations tonight. First of all, the transparency and they talked about the barriers that are out there, because I hang out with a lot of non-educated people these days, old people who don't out in the community that don't understand the barriers that are out there, and not helping our kids learn. They think that they come 180 days, they're there every day, and that's not happening. And so I just like the transparency and that you're still looking into that and you're still working on it, because I think people appreciate that. Not everything's perfect. So we're always it's always about getting better. So thank you. Also excited about the affective domain I'm all about that. I'm kind of about the cognitive, that I know that's pretty cool, but the affective, because we all know first their hearts and then their heads. And also their interests in the STEM has always been an interest for the kids. I've seen kids that would not do very well in the 8th grade and then come in driver's ed, and wow, they're super students. Or they show up in YV Tech when I would sub there after I retired. And the kids that didn't do very well in middle school, boy, you got them in one of those programs where it was hand-on. It was great. So thank you very much. And the other thing, talking about some of your dual language. I am not an expert on that, but I'm working on my 3rd language, which is Vietnamese, because my granddaughters are Vietnamese, and their schools over there, they have fun. So it's, again, going back to having fun in the classroom. Those kids, those 4th graders come up to me, and they only get like 1 or 2 hours of English a day, but they come up and they all want to talk to me because they assume I speak English, which I do. And so not very well. That's probably not my best language. But again, the fun that's involved. And I was excited to hear that's being added to the classroom more and more. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda enables the Board of Directors to efficiently deal with matters that have been delegated to the superintendent, but by law must be approved by the board. Items on the consent agenda are voted upon as one block and approved with one vote. Any board member has the right to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. I will entertain a motion that the Board of Directors approves the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second that the Board of Directors approves the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
Could you read the topics that are included in the consent agenda?
Yes. The consent agenda includes approval of minutes for August 2025, notification of approval of warrants for August 2025, approval of personnel actions, approval of out-of-endorsement assignments for the 2025-26 school year, and interlocal agreements. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Objections, opposed, or abstentions. I'm gonna write that down. I always forget. I don't know why. Opposed and abstention. Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Next on the agenda are approvals. First is approval of the Yakima School District CTE Carl D. Perkins grant application and 4-year strategic plan for YSD CTE for the 25-26 school year, and Dr. Christina Larson, Deputy Superintendent, presenting.
So there is that proposal, and then the one that follows is very similar. So would you like me to talk about them together or to talk about them separately? They'll be approved separately, but would you like me to just talk about each one separately then?
Oh, I think you can talk about them all together and we'll just take individual actions.
So these are very similar proposals. One is focusing on our Yakima School District CTE programming and the Carl Perkins grant that is going to be funding some additional programming and technology connected to our CTE programming that is separate from the YV Tech programming. So the one that will be supporting our Yakima School District CTE programming that you would see in many of our high schools would is the grant that is for $253,573. And then similarly, YV Tech also has a Carl D. Perkins grant application, and which is used for the same kinds of things, programming and technology. And the amount that would go to YV Tech is $95,174 dollars. These proposals are basically to get board approval, which is a requirement of receiving the grant funds. And so annually, these come before you, and it takes documented approval by the board for the grant application to be completed, and then for the funds to be allocated out to the district.
For the purposes of informing our folks who are watching, CTE is career and technical education, correct?
Yes, career and technical education. So these are all the kinds of programming that students get involved in that actually help give them world career job types of experiences so that they can explore what they might want to pursue in the future for the careers.
And these are federal funds. How confident are we that that money is actually there?
Bonnie is nodding her head emphatically. So the money is there.
All right. Thank you.
For this year, this year that, yes. Yeah.
Susie, any other questions or comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Directors approve the Yakima School District CTE Carl D. Perkins grant application and 4-year strategic plan for YSD Career Technical Education for the 25-26 school year, bringing in $253,573.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 4-0. I will entertain a motion. This is part of the review that Dr. Larson just provided. I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Directors approve the Yakima Valley Technical Center Carl D. Perkins grant application and 4-year strategic plan for YSD Career Technical Education for the 25-26 school year, bringing in $95,174.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. The next approval is for travel for the superintendent to 2 upcoming conferences in February 2026. Dr. Green.
Thank you, Vice President Villanueva. The requested motion is for approval to 2 upcoming conferences and the estimated amount. This is an overestimation, but it is at $6,700. I will overshare some of the information just to make sure that those who are watching, the public, are aware of some of the rationale for attending conferences out of state. As the board is aware, I am not one to travel much out of state, usually once a year, usually at one conference. It does happen that this year there are 2 that are coinciding within a couple of days from each other. One is the Heads and Principals Association, which is in Durham, North Carolina, the booming metropolis right there by Hawaii. So it's going to be a tremendous vacation, but that is a wonderful opportunity to partner with thought leaders, make sure that we are connecting around issues at the federal level. It does include both private school entities, more directly, a lot of boarding schools and day schools, but then also public schools. So it's the only collaboration where the 2 do come together. Very high level of planetary presenters and discussions that do happen at that conference. The second is the AASA, which is National Superintendent's Conference. As part of that conference, I am, as you are aware, on the governing board for AASA, one of a few representatives in the state. which did pay for the travel this summer fully to attend and do some advocacy work around the frozen funding in the title situation in July. The first day of that session is paid for by the advocacy portion of being on the governance committee. The other days are not. However, we do have a partnership with the University of Washington, as you're well aware, not only in the legislative area, but separately serving on the ambassador board for the University of Washington. I was able to connect with Dr. Min Sun, who at the time I learned she presented to the advisory board, and I learned that she had just acquired around $15 million from a fund to look into and delve more fully into AI and the support of our educators around AI. And I have to really look out there and credit, I think I'm going to credit Andy Gonzalez with his work around that. He's our remaining sole individual that is working on the implementation of that. And we are rolling out that work. And there have been several training sessions around what is called Colleague AI. And as part of that, she did put in for a presentation at that conference. And so we found out yesterday that it was accepted. So presenting would be Dr. Sun, Dr. Kelly Armaki, ironically, from superintendent from Bellevue School District, and myself would join her. And we are in conversations now to see what type of funding she has offered funding, and she is looking on her end to see what can be done to support that as well. So I would be happy to report out after the fact of what the actual cost would be, because again, this is an estimate. There are about 2 days in between the two conferences would be fully funded by me, and hotel it would be so that I wouldn't have to come back and then fly again, and additional cost to the district. So there's a saving there as well. And there's no other travel plan for before that or after that. So I would ask you to entertain and ask any questions about the conferences.
Any questions from members of the board? I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Directors approve Superintendent Trevor Green to travel to 2 upcoming conferences, Heads and Principals and AASA National Conference, February 3rd to 14, 2026, for an estimated amount of $6,700.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. And we've arrived at the second opportunity for comments from the public. And we have Steve McKenna here to talk about finances.
Excuse me. Testing. Okay. My name's Steve McKenna. I'm a former YA president. I retired from the Yakima School District. I'm also like to look at the funding aspects of our district. As a taxpayer, I know that funding is really important. I know that I also know that the Yakima School District's had 3 RIFs in 2 years. And we've had to use the levy as collateral for a TAN, which is due this December, $4.6 million. That I'm concerned that I sat down with Mr. Cooper. The superintendent was double scheduled, and so he was not able to attend with his assistant and Francis Guerrero to discuss the information that I sent the board members to show you exactly what I'm talking about. That and what I'm concerned about is that our superintendent makes more than the Seattle superintendent, which is the largest district in the state, more than 3 times the size of Yakima. He makes more than the Spokane superintendent, which is roughly twice the size of Yakima. And I'm just concerned that this kind of compensation, which will now put our superintendent's salary above the president of the United States, will just send a kind of crazy message to the community that we can't get enough money, but we need more for bonds and we need this. And I think that that's a tough sell, and that the district will need to do a very good job of educating the public on that. Thank you.
May I respond?
Sure.
Would you like to make any comment? Just make sure. Okay. First, I want to thank both Steve McKenna and Vicki Dwight for coming from SELA to be here tonight. And just to call out also that as we look at, and I understand that data or information can be used selectively, but I also want to call out that we have several teachers that are making more than the superintendent of public instruction in the state of Washington. So when we're looking at elected positions, I think that's important just to put that in the right frame of mind. So I'm looking at a document right now that shows secondary teacher making more than the treasurer, state treasurer, commissioner of public lands, superintendent of public instruction, secretary of state, insurance commissioner, and then we have another 14 teachers that are making more than 35 of our principals. So we know that things are, we pay our teachers well. We're happy about that. I think National Education Association information that went out at the national level obviously put Washington well within the top 5 of salaries that we're paying teachers, and rightfully so. And we're proud that we're able to honor that. And I just wanted to call the attention to, when talking about elected positions, those are a narrative that we should look at everything. And conveniently, I know that we certainly don't even have a Seattle superintendent right now, so that information is incorrect. There is no Seattle superintendent. That position is open. He has left. And there are several other superintendents that are well above where I am, and I think that needs to be called out, because it's one thing to mention 2 people and then give the illusion of being somewhere that's not really there. So that's it. And once again, just want to thank them for coming from SELA today.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is policy governance items. First is approval of ratings for 0550 educational and racial equity. And happy to be able to move forward with this policy. I think this is the 3rd time maybe that we've had this on the agenda, and happy that we have 5 responses. Majority of board members have responded that the superintendent is compliant. Is there any discussions or questions about ratings for 0550 educational and racial equity policy?
Yes, I do have some comments. For some reason, I wasn't able to insert or include any comments in the survey. Maybe I pressed the wrong buttons and I submitted without, yes. But I did want to make some comments, include those comments, hopefully for the record today. Please know that I did agree with the interpretation, the superintendent's interpretation of the policy and the reasonable progress that he reported. So that's all good. I agree with all that. There's great work that's going on in the district. But I just wanted to make some comments. I believe that with this policy, we can go a little deeper, much more deeper in terms of assessing the effectiveness of this policy. The way I see it, and I could be wrong in my thinking, that the 4 pillars are the how, right? More the what we're going to do to implement this policy. And I see the what, or the broader perspective, or the objective is the more the long-term work, and the focus of this policy is, and comes from, and I'm just paraphrasing, is identifying and removing root causes of systemic disparities, right? I think specifically it states that the ultimate, for me, purpose and the goal of the policy is to name, confront, and disrupt inequitable systems and practices that contribute to predictable disparate outcomes on the basis of group membership, and then it goes on to name those various groups. Then also states that the district is committed to transforming those systems that have historically privileged a few, and then it goes on as well and then also talks about moving towards educational justice for all. So I don't know if the information on the 4 pillars addresses that movement or that progress we're making in those areas. So I'm just thinking that maybe perhaps for the future reports that we can go a little deeper than the 4 pillars, than the how, and go into really the evaluate the effectiveness of those 4 pillars and helping us to achieve what we really saying in the policy that to lead as an anti-racist organization, which is looking at the culture and structural, the structure and the culture of the Yakima School District. So, and just tie it in with that structural and cultural change and how it's impacting. I think we say that all student will thrives and succeed. So how is all that related? How is that all interconnected, the 4 pillars, and helping to achieve that student success? So they're all thriving, and I'm quoting, thrives and succeeds. So those are my comments. I just believe that it's all good stuff, especially in terms of the academic part, the curriculum, all the great work that's going on in the district with the teams and within the schools and the progress we're making. But I believe that with this policy, I think it calls out that we need to go a little deeper and address the real reason why we're even have this policy in the first place, which is those disparities between groups. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
Thank you, Raymond. Barb, can we, because he wasn't able to enter his comments into the survey document, is there a way that you can, and if he were to send you his comments, could you enter them into his survey results? Because this document is one of several that we include in the superintendent's evaluation. And it's helpful to have those comments in there when we do that evaluation. You can do that? If you could send your comments to Barb so we can get that into the survey document so that we can include it in the evaluation, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I will entertain a motion that the Board of Directors approves the ratings of 0550 educational and racial equity.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 4-0. Next in policy governance is approval of ratings and reviews for 1000.4.0 global governance management connection and 1000.4.1 unity of control. The ratings are attached in board docs with majority of board members agreeing. Is there any discussion on either of the policies?
No, I move we approve the ratings and reviews for 1000.4.0 and 1000.4.1.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there a further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. We have arrived at the end of the agenda. I understand we have a need for executive session?
We do for 15 minutes. Bob, would you like to provide the rationale?
Yes, 15-minute executive session to talk about potential and existing current litigation.
And do we
need to
vote? Do we need to have a specific time? Like we'll meet in 5 minutes?
Yeah, probably should give folks time to get there.
Okay.
Is it in your office?
1.5 minutes.
Is it in your office? Okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we move to executive session for 15 minutes in 5 minutes. So at 8:38, well, 8:39 by the time we're done with the motion. In the professional library for current and potential litigation with legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Do I don't do this yet, do I? So we're not adjourning?